All right, so this is Mindset Mastery. This is a podcast that started recently for HighRez, our company, video company that we have, JP and I. So HighRez Media is basically we shoot content for smaller businesses, local businesses that are really just need to get their content out there. We want to help provide that content for different businesses so they can show who they are. Because I feel like that's a big struggle that a lot of businesses, they don't have or they don't know that they need. Is the only way somebody's going to know what you do is if they know what you do. And if the easiest way to tell them about that is to show them sometimes. So today we got Eric Leroy Anderson with us for Mindset Mastery, and JP is actually joining us on this one as well.
Yeah.
We're out here in Temecula,
California.
Temecula, California.
Yeah. I had no idea where it was on the map until we're heading out. Actually, until I we bought the plane tickets, and I was like, "What? Where can I even buy a plane ticket at in San Diego or LA?" So I found out where Temecula was after that.
That's the easiest way to explain it to people. Is it's on I-15, halfway in between LA and San Diego.
Yeah. It's actually 73 miles south of LA, 53 miles north of San Diego.
Yeah. So this is Mindset Mastery, and we're gonna chat a little bit. And Eric, tell us a little bit about what you do, why you do, and know who you are.
Yeah. So the reason I'm on the podcast is because I'm the CEO of Local Bug Guy. So we've got I guess you could call it a regional company. We've got two branches, one branch here in California and one branch in Utah. But when I tell people what I do, pest control is just a piece of it, right? Because I put on events, I do public speaking, I am the father and proud husband, and I have a lot to me that isn't just running a pest control company.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. So how long have you been in the industry, the pest control industry?
Yeah, so I actually am just coming up, I think, tomorrow on 5 years.
Dude, we should get a cake.
Yeah, right. So
celebrate
5 years, and my introduction to the industry was actually my introduction to Local Bug Guy. So my first ever time in a pest control company was working here at this company, and I came on as a technician with the intention to become the office manager. And after a couple of years, I was actually approached by Brent, who's the owner of Local Bug Guy, and he's like, "Hey, instead of being an office manager, instead of leaving me, why don't you come help me run the company?" And so now I'm CEO, and him and I will run it together.
Yeah. So being with a mentality of hey, I want to be a manager, to switching real quick to say hey, won't you help me run this company? How was that transition? What did that feel like? Or what did the mindset have to do? Because I know that there's a certain mindset when you're going to be in charge of somebody, but there's also a different mindset when you're going to be in charge of everybody.
Yeah.
So how's that? How'd that whole thing play out?
Yeah, it's funny because it was super natural. So and not supernatural, but supernatural.
I see. Okay.
So I always had the intention of running companies. I was going to start my own company. I was going to do all these things. And so I was already kind of thinking like a business owner, and I was young. I was only 25 when he asked me to step up into more of that senior management leadership level position. And so the biggest thing for me to overcome mindset wise was my age, but I saw the office manager position as, hey, this is just a step in me getting there. Right. And so instead of taking that first step, I just kind of leapfrogged all of the steps.
Yeah.
And so it was beneficial to me. Like I said, it was natural because I was already looking forward to either being a business owner or helping people run their businesses.
Yeah. I think when I started Patriot Construction, I wasn't ever in a management position. I just remember sitting in the office, and I'm at the firehouse, and just looking at my lieutenant, and I was like, man, I could lead better than this guy. And I still feel that way today. That I can, with my eyes closed, I can lead better than that guy. And it was a complete. So I understand the mind shift. I was just I told my wife, I'm I got to leave.
Yeah.
And we started a company, and I started a company with a business partner, and he was like, bro, you got to be in charge. So I went from being just a line guy to being in charge of a company which turned into a multi-million-dollar construction company, and is like offshot these little businesses, and like you've grown these businesses out of it. And then now people look at you completely different. So,
well, when we talk about mindset, I say a lot that leaders are readers. Like, you have to read. You have to be consuming content. You have to be building yourself before you can build others. And it's really funny because 2018 was a big growth year for me. I've always been a reader. I've always read a lot of nonfiction. But in 2018, I consumed 180 books. So just between reading outside of work or as a technician spraying houses, I had headphones in and I was just listening to audiobooks. And so just everything I could get my hands on, from marketing to operations to leadership books. I can't tell you how many John Maxwell books I listened to that year. It helps that he writes a new book every 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's good.
So there were a bunch of them, but because I had this bank of knowledge, I was able to just start to execute on that. And so it was about a year after that Brent asked me to make that step up. And so really 2018, I was preparing for that. And that's, just a testament to that phrase, leaders are readers.
Yeah, I agree with it. How much do you read?
Not as much as I should, but I have actually been going through Maxwell's 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership.
Yeah.
I love that book. I'm like about halfway, or a little bit more than halfway through. And like every chapter is just mind blowing to me as a, leader, not just leading in business or, leading in businesses and the people around me, but also my family. I'm just like, wow, this is how I need to live my life. This is how I need to move forward. If I want to make things happen, I need to start doing these steps. Yeah. And it also helps me reveal, like, I didn't know that was the name that was on this step for me. Mm-hmm. This step of leadership, I wouldn't even name it, but Maxwell's like, oh, this is the law of the lid. This is the law of, like the different ones that he has. And I'm just like, oh, here we are. We're at this place, So it's just cool to experience that and see, that through reading his books. And then I do, occasionally like to read other, different style fantasy books. But I'm the same way. I'm a, Audible.
I'm Audible guy.
Amazon Audible all day. Like, just, I got that thing blaring. I got Rocket Fuel. I got Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. And I got like 2 other books that are just like going through. So
that's awesome.
So my wife asked me, she's like, how do you do that? Like, she has to read. She loves to sit and open a book and just read.
Yeah.
If I read, I can read for 30 minutes and I'm like, what did I just read?
Yeah.
But if I listen to it, I can, like right now I'm listening to like 7 different books and I can play on any of them and I know exactly where I'm at. And she's like, I don't get it. But it makes, so you don't always have, you don't always have to be a reader. You just have to take in that content.
Yeah.
That content's important.
Receiving the new information and then actually taking that and applying it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, they're personal growth junkies. Mm-hmm. They'll go to a conference and get a hit, or they'll read a book and get a hit, but then they never actually do anything with it.
Yeah, dude, it's funny you say that, man. I kind of almost felt into that whole entire, that personal development junkie thing. Because I was so, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got this, and I got this, and I got this. And I'm like, holy cow. And I'm like, I should apply, at least one of these things. That if I've soaked all this stuff in, I'm like, man, I should apply one of these things. So that's important that you said that. That's part of the mindset, is that, you can't just, keep, when I was in ministry, we had this analogy. There was and one of the youth came up with it, and it was a picture of a big fat lady on the back of the church pew. Okay. And they hate it when I said this in church, but she just took in all this stuff. She just kept on taking it in, and she just kept getting fatter and fatter. But she never gave back. She never poured back into anybody. She only received and only received. And that's the same thing. Is if we just receive as leaders, but we don't pour back into our people, we just become this big, huge, fat thing that can't even move anymore, and we're no good. We've just taken all this stuff in, and we became stagnant, and we sit. So we have to pour that back out.
Yeah,
have to be constantly, pouring on other people so that your cup is empty enough to pour back into.
Totally. And we all know the realtors that will sell one house a year, and they'll go to a Tony Robbins event, and they've got this new idea that they're going to do, but they never really go anywhere. And then we all know realtors, guys that are killing it, and they end up being developing their own brokerage, and they've got a team of people, and they're just rock stars. And the difference is the application of that knowledge.
Yeah.
So
I'm not supposed to be sitting back. Joey wants me to sit forward, but
I prefer it, but
it was too much, man. My ab work. I was like, feel like I was doing an ab workout there.
whatever, dude. Whatever.
But Joey, let's pick on you a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
as a new business owner, starting off in HighRez, not really, like just getting your feet wet so far. What do you feel the application of, like you said, the application of that leadership stuff? What are your thoughts on that? Like,
Dude, like actually applying it to business and what you're doing.
instead of just receiving it,
I think it's that analogy is perfect, a perfect example of, the reality that we have, or that we, it's, you're developing all this knowledge but not doing anything with it.
Yeah.
How is that good or beneficial to you or anyone else? Because all you're doing is you're just constantly consuming,
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife, and there's consumers, and this is what I broke it down to. And I came up with this idea when we came back from Uganda. I was like, man, there's consumers and there's producers.
yeah,
Like that's, if I were to boil life down, you have your consumers and you have your producers. Your producers are the people who are going to go out there and they're going to make stuff happen. And the consumers are just going to constantly be depressed and looking for another reason why they don't have enough. Mm-hmm. So I remember going to Uganda, Africa, and we would be coming back from doing like mission work, or even just going out to hang out with kids in the middle of the, in the ghetto area. And we would come back at like 2 a.m.
yeah.
And you would hear grinders, like machine grinders. You would hear hammering, you would hear nailing, screw guns. Like, people were doing work at 2 a.m. and it didn't stop. It was constantly like, boom, go, go, go. Then you'd get up 6, 7 a.m. and you would still hear that same noise.
And the streets are full at 6 a.m.
Constantly.
dang.
Like people just out
were
moving and dressed and working. And
always moving. And it was just like, man, how, like, we, in this country, and even myself sometimes, I can visibly, like, think back to the points where I was just sitting and just sedated, and like I was a consumer, and I was just like, I just wanted it now, I wanted it fast, and I wanted it to happen. But then I go to that country and I can see like how on the cusp they are of that super boom, like that change in what their economy could look like, because it is a country full of producers.
Yeah.
Like, people are hungry there. They're not hungry for the stagnation. They're hungry for that, they're hungry for more. They're not okay with being where they are.
Yeah.
So for me, it just gave me a whole different mind shift of, I could either sit here and just constantly consume and be like, oh yay, like, thank you, that was so good, but I need more because I still don't feel good enough. I'm just going to consume more and more, and eventually I'll get to the point where I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
But if you, what's that phrase? A body in motion will stay in motion, and a body at rest will stay at rest. Mm-hmm. It's not a phrase. It's a law. It's Newton's.
Yeah, it's law of physics. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
literally. So like, I was talking to an really old dude. He was like 95. He was at a home show that we did in Waynesville, where we were at. Yeah. The dude was 95 years old. Walked up to me, shook my hand. I would have said he was like 65 or 70-year-old max. And he's like, his wife, or his daughter, goes to me, how old do you think he is? And I'm like, 70, 75? He's like, I'm 95 years old. I was like, shut up. I literally told him, I was like, shut up. You're not 95 years old. He said, I'm 95 years old. And he said that to me. He's like, a body in motion will stay in motion, and a body at rest will stay at rest.
That's good.
He's like, that's why there's so many people who are in these homes, these retirement homes, who are just falling apart and they can't function and their minds are gone. He's like, I work out every day, I get up every day, and I'm moving and I'm doing something because I want to still be able to do this in 5 years, 10 years.
So let me ask you this. So my wife is an author, and I'm a full-on nerd, like Dungeons and Dragons and all of it. And so I love story. And in good stories, there's this idea of an inciting incident. So as the story gets going, you start reading, and it's this person that lives this normal life, and something happens to them that sets them off onto their adventure. In Lord of the Rings, Bilbo gives Frodo the ring, and that sets him off onto his adventure, right?
Yeah.
So you've had all of these experiences that are just like testaments of this principle that you've learned, but what was the inciting incident for you? When did you go, okay, now it's time for me to be a producer?
That's a great question. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. me and my wife we were working at church, and we didn't make a whole lot of money. You know, we worked at a church. It was good money for the church we worked at. I mean, it was a great church and it was awesome. Loved working with the people, but financially, I was capped. I wasn't going to make more than I could, and she wasn't going to make more than she could. So we were just like, we want to have a big family. We wanted to be able to do these extravagant things. We want to be able to give back to people because we enjoy giving. I love like being able to take care of people who don't have the means that they need and be able to be like, hey, let me help you out, you know? And so that was 4 years ago. We were working at a church, and I was like, babe, I want us to do better. I want us to have more. I want us to be able to bless a family in need, or bless a whole, you know, village in Africa or something one day, or maybe adopt a kid. But right now with what we have, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, I agree. And I was like, okay, well, something's got to change because financially we can't do this. And the only way this is going to change is if I step out and I do something different. So it kind of, I fumbled around a little bit, tried to find a couple of jobs, and then I landed with JP. He's like, bro, come sell roofs and you'll make a crap ton of money. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I actually made a good bit of money in my first year ever doing it. I was really part-time because I was trying to do some side hustle stuff with video work, which here now we're doing it,
right?
You know, yeah. But it slowly started to ignite even more of a passion for me. We wanted to have a kid. We didn't have enough money to do that. We wanted to get a bigger house and fix our house, get new cars or new vehicles. We didn't have enough money for that. So the only way that was going to change was if I changed, and literally if I got out of my comfort zone, because I was so comfortable doing what I was doing.
Yeah,
I was comfortable and I was okay with being a consumer, and I was just comfortable with like, you know, we'll get by. And then my wife started having dreams and wanted to have more kids and wanted to have a bigger family and wanted to do all of these things. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I can't do it sitting in this job anymore. Like, I got to make stuff happen. And the only way to do that is to just get out of your box, get out of your comfort zone, and just go.
Yeah, comfort's the antithesis of success, right?
Yeah.
Like so many people think, I want to be successful, but I want to be comfortable. Yeah, like if you want to get big, like you've got to put yourself under stress in the gym. I asked about your inciting incident because I think as we talk about the mindset of leadership, there is this idea that like leaders are born, and I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I think everybody has this inciting incident, this thing that happens to them that like changes their mindset, and or at least starts to change their mindset. And some people it's hitting rock bottom. I mean, we all know a bunch of guys that have done that. They've hit rock bottom and they go, nope, time to make a change, and now they're multi-million-dollar business owners, right? For me, when I grew up below the poverty line in both my households. My parents were split up, and so we had food stamps and like full 9 yards, eating like school lunches and then coming home and not having dinners a lot of days. Like I thought rich people made $80,000 a year. Like I thought that was like top of the line.
A lot of people do still.
Yeah, and for me it was actually my mission. I served a 2-year mission in Florida, and I saw success. I had a friend that we asked him to pick somebody up for church, and he jokingly was upset with us because he wanted to drive his Lambo that day. And instead of driving his Lambo, he had to pick up friends in his Rolls Royce because that was his only car with 4 doors. Tough life, right?
Yeah.
First world problem. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he wasn't actually upset. Super gracious guy. But seeing that, I realized there was more. And so that was the inciting incident for me. It wasn't hitting rock bottom. It was something opened up my eyes to say, hey, there is more than you can you've seen and that you've expected in the past.
Mine, man, I can still remember the day that it happened. I was at the firehouse, and like I just always felt that God had put more on me. And I felt like I was waiting on everything. I'm waiting for calls. I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting for this. And God's like, man, I didn't make you to wait. Like I put something inside you that you just can't sit around and wait. I was sitting there, and I had been stuck with this guy. Where I was in seniority, we got to pick our like where we go, and I always had to pick with this one guy, and nobody else wanted to pick with him. But where I'm at, if he's watching, he knows who he is. Like I had to pick with this one guy, and like I called my wife, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna make I'm going to make him be a leader today. And she's like, just do your job, JP. I'm like, nope, I'm going to make him be a lieutenant today. I'm like, if he's in charge of me and he's supposed to lead me, I'm going to make him do work. And, she's like, JP, she's like, you're making, she worked at the same firehouse, but we worked opposite days. She was like, you're making it hard on me. I was like, dang, I'm like, that kind of got me a little bit. But I sat there and I just felt that call in my life by God. Like, man, I didn't make you to sit here. I didn't give you this gift to sit here. And I remember looking at this dude, and he was eating a biscuit for like the fourth biscuit in a row, just shoving it in his pie hole. And I got up, and I'm like, hey man, I'm pretty much done with this. And he was like, what? Blah blah blah. He said something, something stupid. And I walked out to the bay, and I called my wife, and I'm like, hey, I'm quitting. I was making $86,000 a year. We had a nice little, cushy little job. I was so high in seniority, I wouldn't have got laid off. I mean, I tried to get fired, making this guy lead me. And I'm like, man, this isn't healthy for me. It's not healthy for my wife. It's not healthy for our marriage. And God's calling me out. So she said, do you think God's really in it? I said, yep. I said, I prayed about it. I'm like, I really feel that like I'm just burning to get out of here. She's like, then quit. Typed in my resignation and I submitted that day.
Dang.
Walked out. Walked out, started a business.
I think there's a piece there that I want to pull out as we talk about the mindset of leaders, right?
Yeah.
Is like you took action. Like we keep talking about like if you read and take action, like it's not just taking action on principles you learn and read, but so many people have ideas.
Yeah.
Or they get these feelings, these promptings from God, or they feel like the universe is pulling them if they're not religious, right? If you feel those things and you're not taking action, then you're not a leader. You're following. You're waiting for somebody to tell you what to do.
Yeah, waiting.
Yeah, but when you start to take action on those things, that's when you become a leader.
And the burning thing about that is that like, you wait on a call. So I would sit while I was waiting on calls and like just watch YouTube videos about business. Because I told God, I said, if you're calling me out of this, I'm like, just straight up told him, I said, you're going to have to change my mind. You're going to have to make me absorb business information, which I had 3 failed businesses before that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're going to have to make me understand this. So I would watch a business and like, my wife will come out at like 9 or 10 o'clock and she's like, oh, so like, if you're watching tax strategy, she's like, I'm going to bed. I'm like, and I'm just like watching tax strategies and I'm just like absorbing. I'm like, check this out. I'm like, we haven't paid taxes like since we started our business.
Yeah.
Because like we have a tax strategy and I just absorb it and I just take it in. So yeah, it's that information, man. It's just like, it's out there and it's.
What's your mic?
What's that?
It's rubbing. I can hear it.
I was going to say, I was worried that was
Let me fix myself. Is that better?
I can hear it now.
Dude.
Don't bend your neck.
Fix.
Your thick behind neck.
Yeah. Had a tree trunk as a neck and he said, don't bend it.
So I wanted to actually talk a little bit about, just before we wrap up and start, transition or head out. But I wanted to ask you about a little bit more about pest control and about what you guys do here in the, Temecula area or just with Local Bug Guy. What makes you guys different and stand out from other, companies?
Yeah. It's really funny because we argued about this before we started recording, right? I don't feel like I'm super passionate about pest control. Like I'm not passionate about bugs. I don't have a basement with a bunch of cockroaches and mason jars. Like I'm not that guy. But I'm super passionate about the mission of Local Bug Guy, like what we're trying to accomplish. And all of that needs to go to Brent. Like Brent is the mastermind behind what is this organization. And so as you ask, what makes us different from the industry? We think that it's 3 things. The combination of these 3 things make us different from everybody else. The first one is that a customer gets the same technician every time. And so most companies will say, hey, we've got all these customers and we've got all these technicians. Let's figure out which customers need service. We'll group them together and we'll send a technician. And then they've just got this pool of technicians, so they'll get a random guy every time. With that, they also have a pretty high turnover of technicians. I mean, I've heard numbers as high as 180%, saying that like basically every 6 months they're replacing somebody. And so like if that's true, then customers are getting a different guy every time, and it's either a guy that's just starting or a guy that's getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
And so like you're not getting a great experience that way as a technician, whereas with Local Bug Guy, with assigning a technician and him feeling like he has ownership over this piece of the business, he has stewardship over this piece of the garden, he gets to develop a relationship with those people. Every time you go to a house, you learn something new about it. And so over time, the service actually ends up getting better for the customer. I remember when I was a technician, I got to the point where I would show up to a customer's house and say, "Hey, Miss Jones, it's June. The last 2 years, we've had an ant problem in the back left corner in July. And so I'm going to make sure I spray really heavy right there this time to keep all the bugs away."
Yeah.
And then you do that, and the ant problem doesn't show up that year. And it's like, okay, I was able to learn that by having that experience with the customer by going over and over and over again for years. And so we're able to accomplish that. So that's the first thing, is that customers get the same technician every time.
Yeah. And we saw that today.
100%.
I mean, we went out and shot some today and like some video. And, you know, when like Ian walked up to a customer, you know, the guy's just like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" He's like, "Oh man, I forgot to text you. I changed my code for the back door. Let me hit you up real quick." He was like, "Yeah, I'll give you the key to my house or whatever if you need it." And it was just like they were able to talk, and it was like they were friends. So yeah, we got to see that firsthand today on a couple different things with Gil and with Oscar and all of them when they showed up. I mean, the guy was like, they were talking about baseball.
Yeah.
You know, so the guy was like, "Oh, how you been doing?" You know, yeah, you know, and it was really good.
Yeah, and so not only does the service improve, but you actually know and trust the person around your home. Yeah. You don't have some stranger who barely passed a background check in your backyard. You know the guy that's hanging around your yard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's the first of the three, and ultimately, it might be the most important. Like, it's a huge piece of it. The second one is each of those technicians is covering a really small area. And so a lot of companies, they'll cover a really big area. And so you'll have a technician who's assigned to customers in like Lake Elsinore. And then the next day they're covering further north. They could be as far as like 50 miles north the next day. And they're just bouncing around all the time. And so not only are they not seeing the same customers, they might be spraying different types of houses. They might be doing different areas. And what's crazy about pest control, and you guys are in Ohio, so you guys have seen that the bugs you have in Ohio are different from what we have here. Yeah. But what's even crazier is it will change in as quick as 10 miles. Like, not majorly. Yeah. In Southern California, the most common ant species is the Argentine ant. And that's going to be true. In Utah, the most common ant is going to be the concrete ant. And so, like, there's major changes there. But I remember covering an area, and my area had a ridge through it. And my area was only about 5 miles in diameter, like from top to bottom. But this little ridge would make it so that the bugs were actually a little bit different. But then even more than that, there would be a piece of the area that had a lake. And the houses around the lake would see different bug activity than the houses that were 2 miles away from the lake.
Wow.
Like, and it was like pretty drastic. Houses around the lake have a lot of spiders because the ants or the lake creates a bunch of flying insects. And so there's a lot of food for the spiders to eat, and so the population explodes. This isn't something a lot of people think of, but when you're doing it all day, every day.
I don't think about it.
Yeah. Doing it all day, every day, you see it. And so when you show up to these houses that are on a lake, half of your service is spent knocking down spider webs.
Wow.
And like just these little minute things. And so covering as small of an area as possible actually helps the technician become an expert in that area, as opposed to covering a wide range. He starts to learn this pocket has this problem and this pocket has this problem.
Yeah.
And so that's first one is getting the same tech. Second one is he's an expert in that area. The third one is that he's an expert in a common pest. And so a lot of companies, they'll be everything for everybody. We intentionally exclude services. So we don't do termites. We don't do bed bugs. We don't do cockroaches. We don't do rodent exclusions. I could go through a couple of more things that we don't do.
Yeah.
And
So the good thing is if you see local bug guy, they're not getting rid of bed bugs at your neighbor's house.
yeah, yep.
That's true.
That is good.
Yeah, it really is. And the other thing there is that if you talk to pest control owners, like people who own pest control companies, they'll tell you we're crazy because termites and bed bugs and cockroaches, those are the money makers. That's where the profit's at.
Yeah.
And so they've got their company, and so they're going to send their best guys to those jobs. And so the guys that are struggling are going to take care of the spiders, the ants, they're going to do the callbacks for earwigs or things like that. Whereas with us, we don't do any of those money makers, but we're really, really good at the everyday pest. And so here's the crazy thing to think about is how often do you get termites in your house?
Yeah, hardly ever.
Maybe once in a lifetime,
Right.
if that. But how often do you have a spider in your house? Every single day.
You literally.
Yeah. And so if you have a pest control company or a bug guy that's coming and spraying, do you want him to be really good at the thing you're going to have a problem with once or really good at the thing you're having a problem with every single day?
I like it, man.
Yeah. So you get the same guy. He's an expert in your area. He knows what problems are going on, like down to your backyard, but then in the neighborhood as well. And then the things that you're having a problem with every day, he's an expert in those things. He doesn't even know how to do the other things. So that's what makes us different.
Wow. So I know we talked about some of this stuff yesterday, and like some stuff you can't say, which I totally understand when it comes to like chemicals or whatever that you get like that are used. But a lot of misconception or different things is like, some chemicals, some people can do some of this stuff at home with some of the stuff that you can buy at like your local supply store or hardware store. So like, what are your thoughts on some of these things?
Yeah, because when you think of pest control, like you think of skull and crossbones, everything on you touch is going to like melt my skin off.
Yeah.
That's what like the common person thinks of when they think of pest control.
Yeah. Yeah, we live in the United States, and the federal government has come up with this system for every chemical, and it's the use of signal words. Every single chemical that's produced is going to have one of 3 signal words. The most toxic is going to be danger. And I mean, if you go look on your laundry detergent, on your house cleaners, on different things, you can look, there will be a box, and in it will have a big word. And if that word is danger, it's saying, hey, this is in the most toxic classification of chemicals. Now, when you think danger, that's the skull and crossbones. The next one down from that is going to be caution rating. And so that's like, hey, this is pretty toxic, but it's not like crazy. You don't need a hazmat suit for this. But when you use it, you should probably have a mask. You might use eye protection. You should definitely wear gloves. And then the lowest of those is going to be warning. And I mean, I can guarantee if anybody goes and looks at their laundry detergent, it's going to say either warning or caution. Like it's going to have that word. If you look at your household cleaners like Windex or different things, it's going to have one of these 3 words. And typically it's warning, but you'd be surprised at how many things in your house have that caution rating.
Yeah.
For us, we don't carry anything that isn't a warning rating. Everything is that lowest toxicity, that warning rating. And so that means there's household cleaners that are more toxic than the stuff that we're using to spray bugs.
So when you say that, like, are you still going to be able to kill a bug?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question.
I got schooled on that today.
Yeah?
About some dust off of some flour kills bugs, and that's one of the things that you guys use. So I got schooled today about it.
That's cool. So what that conversation was about was primethrin. And it comes from chrysanthemums.
That's what it was.
Boom.
Yep. And so
Get that for Christmas.
primethrin is actually a super common organic pest control. We use a bunch of things. Our most common spray is a synthetic pyrethroid. And so it has the same chemical makeup as primethrin, but it's made in a lab because that's cheaper than harvesting from a bunch of flowers. But it's almost identical. It's basically the same thing. And so as these synthetic pyrethroids are probably most chemical or most pesticides. And so the important thing that you should look at when you're looking at like the effectiveness of it is the application. Now, if I took your laundry detergent and I put it in a backpack and I sprayed for spiders, I'm probably not going to kill spiders. These pesticides are actually developed specifically to target certain pests. And so we're going to use the ones that are most applicable for the problem that the customer is having. But even more important than that is spraying it in the right place.
Yeah.
So if I said, hey, I'm going to come out and spray for black widows, and I just like sprayed, I might kill some. But if I knew that if I flip over the patio furniture, they're hiding under there, and then you spray there, now you're going to kill the black widows. In the trash cans, if you ever open one of the city trash cans, they've got little cubbies up by the handle, and almost every single one of those from somebody that doesn't have a good bug guy is going to have little black widows hidden in there. And so for anybody that doesn't have pest control, or if you do, this might be even worse, pop that open and see if you can find some black widows hiding in there. And what our technicians will do is they know all these spots under the patio furniture, inside the trash cans, other places in the yard that we know black widows are there almost every single time.
Yeah.
And they're going to take the time to check those spots and treat those areas specifically.
Man, you saying black widows, we, like, out in Ohio, we do not have, like, I've almost never heard of anybody saying, like, oh, I saw a black widow, like,
One in my lifetime.
bro, we got like the little, those fat tarantula looking things, like wolf spiders. Yeah, like that's all we got, you know. And over here, you
little
got
fuzzy black ones.
yeah.
I just killed one on my ceiling the other day.
But you know, hearing, you know,
We do have brown recluse though.
we do have that. I mean, I've not seen one, and I'm thankful. But I actually, my one of my wife's cousins got bit by one last year.
Crazy.
So that is a thing. But when you think of Black Widow, I think of like death, because, you know, or you think of Scarlett Johansson. You think one of the two. You know?
Right?
I think of Scarlett Johansson.
But when I think of Black Widow, I think of, like, you know, growing up as a kid, you heard Black Widow and it's like, oh, that person's gonna die. You know, what's the misconception people can think about? I mean, it is gonna hurt getting stung by one, I'm assuming, or getting bit by one.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest and probably the most like self-serving way to put this is the toxins from a black widow is more harmful than anything that we're going to spray to get rid of the black widow. And so a lot of people, they're concerned about the pesticide. Like, hey, I want it to be safe around my kids and family. It's like, hey, if you want your kids to be safe, you should have pest control, especially around here. Because if you're not getting rid of those black widows, it may put your kid in the hospital. Or you may have to take your dog to the vet if they get bit. And they're the ones that are outside playing. They're running around the patio furniture. Or even like a lot of the kids have like the water tables that they get at Costco. And they're out there playing and they've got black widows hidden up under there.
Wow. And
so having an expert come in and actually treat those areas with something that's less toxic than the toxins of the black widow, I mean, that's just a win-win.
Bro, that's crazy. That's pretty sweet, man. So that your pest control, your chemicals are safer than black widow bites.
It's true, yeah. And I mean, they're safer than most household cleaners. And I don't know that Windex is going to put you in the hospital.
Okay, good to know. I don't want to drink it, but
Yeah.
you know.
So with local bug guy, like you know, you said Brent was the dreamer. You're the integrator. What dreams are on the horizon for Brent? Like where does Brent want to take local bug guy, and where are you going to help him drive that to?
Yeah. So for local bug guy, both for me and Brent, the most important thing is quality of service. And so as we grow, it's important that we maintain that super high quality by making sure customers get the same technician every time, by making sure that technician has a really good job, they love what they do, they're trained really well, they cover a small area, all the things we've already talked about. But as we continue to grow, our goal is to be able to bless 15,000 customers with this service. We really think this is a need in the area that we service. And as we talked about, with pests as dangerous as black widows or paper wasps, like, we're doing a service and helping customers by getting rid of those on their property. And so we would love to see 15,000 customers on board at Local Bug Guy that we're able to take care of. And in order to do that, that means we're going to have 25 technicians. And when we talk about bringing on team members, one of the things we say with technicians is that we're not just giving them a job, but we're actually, while customers we're saving from bad bugs and bad service, we're saving technicians from bad jobs and bad bosses.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We're wrapping it up here.
Yeah.
So we have another event going on.
Yep.
Dollars and Donuts.
Yes, sir.
With no donuts.
Yeah.
You get that.
That's a Brett visionary thing.
Yeah, there was Dollars and Donuts. Very misleading in the caption. I felt misled on it, but it's something you guys do to train your guys with financial security and financial responsibility, which is super important. It's super great that you guys do that. We do that. My wife does that because she's still teaching me how to be financially responsible. Because I would have a helicopter to look at roofs. If I was in charge of the finances, I'd be like, wouldn't have any fuel for the helicopter, but we'd have a helicopter. But yeah, it's super important. You guys are doing that for your guys, and it's amazing. I still feel really misled, Brent, in the donut thing, but I'm gonna get over it. As you guys can see, I've been holding my breath for like 38 minutes now, so I probably don't need the donuts.
I've not been holding my breath, as you can see.
But we're gonna wrap this up, man, and we just appreciate you having us out here to California. Temecula is beautiful.
It is
It is way more pretty than I thought it was going to be. The only time I've spent in California was in the Mojave Desert when I was in the military, and it wasn't as pretty as this.
Yeah.
So it was cool. We drove around a little bit today with your guys and got to see a bunch of Temecula, so it was really, really pretty.
Yeah.
This guy kept on saying, "Oh my gosh, these views."
It's amazing, dude. I cannot stop just being mind blown by how awesome it looks here.
Yeah, it really is. It's a beautiful place to live, and we're grateful to be able to do business here. And what's crazy is with the views and how awesome they are, I still don't think they compare with the people that are here.
Yeah.
Like, we've got some really awesome people. Our community is super strong. I mean, you can, almost any street, you're going to find a veteran or somebody actively serving in the military. And so we have mad respect for that. We appreciate the people that surround us and that we get to work with every day.
Yeah, I mean, we were stopping to do some overview at a real pretty place down south of town, south of Temecula. But we got out of the car and we were walking through this park, and this lady was just like, "Hey, how are you guys doing today?" And another lady spoke to us, and so yeah, the community's been amazing, and it's been a really good trip, really good time seeing why you guys, love the people so much.
Yeah.
So.
And honestly, we could see how much you care about not just the community, but your team members.
Yeah.
Your guys, they all are super appreciative, love being on the team, love being a part of the what you guys have built. And it's really cool to see how much you guys do give back to your guys. And there's dollars and dances tonight. I mean, dollars and donuts. Dollars and donuts tonight. It's going to be, it's pretty cool that you guys are doing that. So. Yeah, man. So this has been great. Thanks for hopping and wanting to do this podcast with us. I appreciate it. For Mindset Mastery, and our main overbody camera is dead, so I'm just going to look at this one. But this has been fun. Thanks again, Eric, for doing this with us. Thank you, JP, for being on this one. So yeah, this is Mindset Mastery. Thank you for joining us, and change your mindset, change your life.